Oh, I think we are now live. So let's go. AI, ChatGPT versus photo reading. So I asked ChatGPT a question. It's something that I've been mulling over and thinking about. It's something I also felt when I was using ChatGPT, that the learning wasn't as deep and as ingrained and as in the muscle. Now I've had some really good responses from ChatGPT. So for example, somebody asked me last year about how they would go about doing something, organizing an award ceremony. And I have been in the events field for, my God, 35 plus years. I started in the late 1980s. And I also used to work for a conference company. We had some big award ceremonies there. There's one, the Irish Call Centre Awards. My boss started it off, Joe. And then when he left, it was quite a small affair, that first one. When he left, they wanted to kind of revive it, see what we could make of it. Could we make it into an award? And so that's what I did in terms of organising the conference, getting all the keynote industry speakers, organizing an award ceremony, writing all the categories, getting the categories sent out to people, getting people to, respond to those categories, organizing a panel of judges, getting the wonderful, they were really beautiful, some glass engraved awards for the winners. We had our keynote speaker and compere was one of the actors from Father Ted, because it was the Irish Call Centre Awards. So it was a big deal. And I did all of that, single-handed. I had a marketing team would, I'd write all the copy, they would send it out. We had a sponsorship team. So I would say, I think these will be good sponsors. They would then be that go-between. But pretty much the whole event was organised by me. So I know about events and awards and all the rest of it. And I worked for the company I worked for then was Centaur Publishing. So they published like Marketing Week, The Lawyer, Money Marketing, etc. So I mind mapped and then wrote out what I would do and how I'd organize it and the kind of key components and things to think about. And then I asked ChatGPT to do it. Now, ChatGPT actually came up with a very good list. I think mine was better. Of course, I'm biased, but it was a very good list. But when I looked at the list, I thought, I wonder how it would it be as deeply ingrained if I just got ChatGPT to whip off a list if I'd never done it before. So I asked ChatGPT a question about something I didn't know anything about, and then I asked it a question about something I did know something about. And just kind of having a quick glance and read. Now, it's a little bit of an unfair challenge in my case because I'm a photo reader. But for somebody who isn't a photo reading, doesn't do accelerated learning, my thinking was, because that's how I kind of felt about it as well, is that the learning, it's there, it's on the surface, you can read those words, but have you embodied them? Do you actually know what those words mean? And can you execute on those words? And I was thinking to myself that it feels as though if you're relying on it all the time, your cognitive development, your cognitive skills, the way that your brain works and gets activated, it doesn't get fired off in the same way. So a couple of days ago, I thought, let me ask ChatGPT what it thinks. And I posed it a very particular, specific question. So let me show you. I'm going to bring up the screen. And actually, first of all, for those of you who don't know what photo reading is, because you might be like, what? What are you talking about? So photo reading, it's accelerated reading and learning technique. So how do you photo read at 25,000 words per minute? Just to put that into context, average reading speed is anywhere from 234 to 426 words a minute, depending on which research you look at. Let's just say less than 500 words per minute. So if photo reading, we start at 25,000 words per minute. It shows you how to get through a whole book from start to finish in just 5 minutes and how to remember, recall what you read. So it's fantastic for absorbing information, activating your creativity, firing off your critical thinking skills, improving your intuition and all of those wonderful things. And so I had ChatGPT give me a summary. So ChatGPT said, you can unlock the power of your mind with photo reading, read at 25,000 words per minute, absorb information, retain it faster, boost focus, memory, productivity, overcome information overload, mental fatigue, ideal for business, study, and personal growth, proven results used by professionals worldwide. Absolutely spot on. I agree with everything ChatGPT said. My question, you can see it at the bottom here, it says, does ChatGPT make photo reading and regular reading and research redundant? That was the question. And I really love ChatGPT's answer. So I'm going to kind of take you through the things that ChatGPT said in response to my question and give you sort of my take on that as well. So I've got it here on my iPad as well, because it's going to be very small on that screen. And there were three key things that ChatGPT came up with. So let me read you the first one. It said, so that was my question. So that was my question. Will it make it redundant? It says, absolutely not. ChatGPT doesn't make photo reading or traditional research and redundant. In fact, while AI offers incredible speed and convenience, which it absolutely does, photo reading remains vital for deep comprehension, retention, and critical thinking, skills that can't be outsourced to AI. And then it takes us through 3 points. I'm going to read you through those 3 points. Then it sort of has another section called why photo reading still matters. Then it has a section that is called call to action. And then it has a section that it has it in summary. So here we go. Numero uno, number one. AI lacks depth and personal engagement. AI tools like ChatGPT can summarize and answer questions quickly, but often they offer only surface level understanding. What educators worry will, in quotation marks, diminish students' critical thinking and creative abilities. And then they put a link to an article by the New York Post. They then also say, as author John Warner argues, only humans can read. Only humans can write in a way that fosters true discovery, emotional depth, and insight. And they've got a link to a publication called The Australian. Relying solely on AI can lead to passive consumption and reduce our ability to deeply process and critically evaluate ideas. And then they've got a link to something called AI with Chris and something also called Vox, VOX. So that's point number one. Point number two, and the title is AI use can weaken cognitive skills. So it said a study from MIT found students using ChatGPT showed decreased brain activity in areas tied to memory, creativity, and learning, suggesting over-reliance may impair cognitive performance. They've got a link to the New York Post. They said another experiment showed using AI for writing led to a 25% drop in comprehension compared to doing the work independently through AI-assisted summaries. Though doing that, taking the AI-assisted summaries, that was left harmful, and that was something from ARXIV. And I haven't read all the articles that are linked to it yet to see what they say. I'm just giving you the high-level summary. And then number three, and actually, let me put this. So I'm going to take that one down. I'm going to put that one up. As I said, it's very small. But number three, just so you can see, this is from inside of ChatGPT. That's the screenshot. Number three, AI as a tool, not a replacement. So bullet point number one, despite downsides, AI can be a powerful aid. I absolutely agree, especially for summarizing complex text, providing personalized recommendations, or supporting neurodiverse learners. And again, that's linked to something called AI with Chris. Bullet point number two, but even as technology evolves, educators emphasize the importance of incorporating AI responsibly and balancing it with critical literacy skills. And then they have a link to a piece in the Financial Times. So that's that. And now we've got the next section. I haven't screenshotted the next section, but it says why photo reading still matters. And in terms of that, one of the things I will definitely say is whether people are learning photo reading in person or online, the comprehension, the learning, the experience is rich, it's deep because it's taught by human. So this is when the very first time I ran the photo reading online, this was the feedback. These were people around the world. It's a 21-hour course. It's 3 days. That's a long time. And most people at the start of that, I think they're going to be really tired and they're not going to get it. This was the feedback at the end of the 3 days from one of the participants. It was the first time in the world, that's why it says world first, that photo reading had been run in this way, because I went back to Learning Strategies, the organization that created photo reading, Paul Shealy's company, or Dr. Paul Shealy now. And I said, I got this idea, and this was way before lockdown. This was, I think, 2018/19. And I said, I want to run the photo reading workshop as a live webinar rather than, because I've always run it in person. I've been a photo reading instructor since March 2002, so 23 and a half years at this point. And it had never been done before. They once or twice had a camera in the room, but that's different to a webinar. I just wanted it purely webinar. And learning strategies were somewhat apprehensive. And I said to them, look, let me do it. If it doesn't work, I'll give people their money back and I'll never do it again. And the people then, because they've done it, course, they'll have the option to do the photo reading workshop anywhere in the world for free, because that's what you get when you get the photo reading certificate. If you want to refresh your skills, fine. So they agreed. I ran it. The feedback, if you put a feedback form of in person next to a feedback form of my online class, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Amazing. So one person said inspiring, creative, intensive, engaging, brilliant. It was online. So the section from ChatGPT, it says why photo reading still matters. It says, bullet number 1, deep comprehension and retention in bold. Photo reading goes beyond skimming. It's designed to help you truly process and retain information, allowing you to recall knowledge with clarity and confidence. Totally agree. Bullet point number 2, heading cognitive flexibility and mastery. Unlike passive AI consumption, photo reading engages your brain, sharpening memory, focus, and critical thinking, the very skills that AI can degrade when overused. So the reason I was a little bit dramatic with this title, and I said the shocking, chilling results, I actually think that's a bit of a worry. Did you hear what I said? Let me read that little line again. Critical thinking, brain, focus, memory, the very skills that AI can degrade when overused. And that is exactly how I felt about it. I felt as though I came away from my AI research sessions and it was just like sitting on the surface. It didn't feel like that same visceral feeling when you've done the thinking, you've activated your neurology, you've done your mind map, etc. And then bullet number 3, the heading of this one is empowerment and agency. So photo reading puts the power of learning back in your hands. You don't just consume information, you actively internalize it, shape it, and make it your own. And there is also something for the photo readers. It's called syntopic reading, where basically you synthesize what you've been learning and then you make it your own. And one of the things that people, I know there's another little bit to the ChatGPT, I'll go through that in a moment, but I just want to kind of show you this one while I think of it, because one of the things that people often say is like, there's lots of yeah buts with photo reading. Yeah, but I'm a slow learner. Yeah, but I'm a slow reader. Or they think they're not academic, etc., etc. So I'm just going to find this one for you. Let me see, where did I put that? Right, here we go. So this is from one of my photo reading clients, lovely. Some of you know Kay Westmoreland, the conscious accountant. Kay was in a plane crash 7 or so years before doing the photo reading workshop. And I knew her for all that time. We'd meet up at various events, often at Gina Lazenby's house, because Gina had a women's group. And Kay would often say, oh, would your photo reading help me? I was in this plane crash, had brain damage. And I said, yeah, I think it'll be great. And this will be year in, year out, year in, year out. It's been on for about 5 or 6 years. We say, I really must look into that. Would it? Yes, it will help. Boom, 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 boom. And people know, if you ask me a question about my training, I answer it. But I'm not going to hound you. I'm not going to be chasing you. I'm not going to be running you down and emailing you every 5 minutes or ringing you or messaging you, are you coming, are you coming? That's not my style. So anyway, Kate eventually comes on the workshop with her daughter. We're walking back to Watford Junction Station, because I run it in Watford. Walking back to Watford Junction Station on the first night, because I was going in the same direction. So I'd locked up the, left the hotel room, and I said, I'll walk back with you to the station. I've got to go that way anyway. And Kay was pretty tearful. And she said, I really wish, and I hear this a lot, I really wish I'd done the photo reading when you first told me about it all of those years ago. And I really wish I'd brought my daughter, because her daughter had just completed her final year of university, almost had a nervous breakdown with the stress and the strain of it all. And she's like, I so wish you did it when you told me about it. Now, this is what she said about it. She said, your photo reading course has really changed everything, Marilyn. My brain just feels rewired. I've written a whole blog about this, and I've included the pictures from because it was very dramatic. It was like a scene from a movie. Kay was in a light aircraft with her partner. The aircraft went down. Unfortunately, her partner was killed in that crash. She just about survived. And it is, as I said, it's really like a scene from a movie. There was one person in the vicinity who would have been able to help her. He was just on his way to court to testify. So he pulls out his mobile phone, goes to switch it off, and it rings. And the person ringing knows he's going to court, and they wouldn't have rung because they already knew. So he answers, and they said, "The plane has just gone down in a field. We need you." So he says to the clerk, "You're going to have to tell the judge, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to give my apologies." He leaves, he goes to the field, does a lung puncture, all that sort of stuff that you see on those dramatic ER movies, etc., saves her life. He's written a blog about it, and I've included in that blog the picture that he took of the field. So we're not messing about here. And Kay had all the tests done at Queen's Hospital, London, blah, 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 blah. Now, you wouldn't know this was going on for Kay, because when you have something happen like that, she is one of these very intelligent people. She managed to compensate, but she knew exactly what was going on. She knew she wasn't herself. So she does the photo reading workshop on the Monday. So we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that group, oh my God, we were there till 10 o'clock at night, not because the workshop overran, but everybody was just so into it. So we finished the workshop at 6 o'clock. 4 hours later, they're all still there riffing and talking. Oh my God, it was just amazing. And at 10 o'clock, Kay was like, "Oh my God, I've got to go." Because she had lived on a house narrow boat at that time. She said, "I've moored the boat up. I've got to move it because I've got a client tomorrow." So she leaves at 10 o'clock at night. She has a client on the Monday. So she's done 3 days of photo reading, 21 hours. It's intense. She's there talking for another 4 hours. She's got a client. She messages me that after the client. She says, "Marilyn, I was back to my old self. I wasn't having to repeat in my head 3 or 4 times what they said. I wasn't having to frantically write everything down. I just remembered." A couple of weeks later, she had a meeting with a friend, a mutual friend called Nick Haynes. He does the 5 elements. You might know him. And he just said out of the blue, because he and Kay were talking, and she said, he just said to me, he looked at me and said, "Kay, you're back." As in, firing on all cylinders like the Kay he used to know before the plane crash. So Kay did a private version of the one-to-one photo reading mastermind group with me. It's a 6-month program. We meet once a month and do tasking in between. And it was probably around about month 3. And she said, "I had tea with my mum today." Well, this in the previous week. And she said, just out of the blue, her mum looked at her and she says, "Kay, you're back." How freaking amazing is that? 2.5-day investment of your time. The word transformation doesn't even begin to cover it. That is insane. So I share that with you for the people who go, "Oh yeah, but I've had people with dyslexia, dyspraxia." Actually, funny enough, I work with a student. He must have been, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that, when I worked with him, and he had just been thrown out of private school because he got into the private school because his brother who went before him is academically bright. So he got in by family default, but he wasn't making the grade. So can you imagine being a teenager and you're chucked out of school because you're not making the grade? So he had to go back to the local comprehensive. He's gutted, he's embarrassed, he's, decimated, emotionally not in a good place. And I was doing a talk for one of these network marketing companies, and I had a PowerPoint slide behind me of what I do. So NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, HUNA, past life regression, tarot, and photo reading was one of the things on the list. So they came up afterwards, a person who had invited me to speak, and they said, "What is a photo reading?" So I said, "Oh, it's accelerated learning," and explained a bit about it. And they said, "Do you think it would help my son?" And then they explained he has dyslexia and dyspraxia. And I said, "Well, I'm happy to have a chat with him." And she said, "Would you be able to come to the house? Because he's very shy, very insecure. He's already going through a bad time. I don't know if he'd respond well having to go and sit with us." I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come around." I don't really do house calls, but on this occasion, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come around." They lived in Watford, not far from me. So I go round, we do the thing, we're sitting on the sofa, I'm just having a little bit of a chat, first of all, just to build up the rapport for those of you who know NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And then I just pull out a book and I'm just explaining how you photo read. And I was like, "Here," I said, grab a book, just follow along while I'm talking." He said, "Oh, those are my dad's books." I said, "Oh, it doesn't matter, just grab one." So he reaches behind him, he grabs a book off the shelf, completely random. So I'm saying, "Well, this is how you do," and step 1 takes about a minute and a half, 90 seconds. Step 2, there's a set time for that where you do your preview. That is 90 seconds, minute and a half. Step 3, photo reading. There's a set time for that as well, about 5 minutes per book. Step 4, your post view. They say about 5 minutes. I actually give my students about 2.5 minutes. They faff about otherwise and waste time. And then step 5, the activation step. You can activate in as little as 2 minutes. But if you're a student, you'll be doing bigger chunks of activation to get that depth as well. And add to it, layer it. So I'm talking him through the steps, and I just play along as I'm doing. So I'm talking how do you prepare, and how do you preview, and how do you photo, and blah 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 blah. And he's just going along, not really doing it. So then we're chatting about 20 minutes later. We're on the sofa in the living room. I can actually see the room in my mind now. And this was 20 odd years ago. And I said something. He said, "Oh, that was in the book." I said, "What?" So what was in the book? And he quoted, and he said, "That was in the book I've just been looking at." And I said, "How do you know?" And he said, "I just know." Found the page. There it was. It was like, whoa. So, it's amazing. And I went for that approach because if we'd gone the school approach, he's already in a bad way, kind of been pretty much traumatized by that experience. So anyway, all of this goes on. His mum says, "Do you want to stay for dinner?" I said, "Yeah, but let me sit next to him over dinner because I've got a few more things I want to layer in." So we're chatting at dinner. And I get a phone call from her that week, and she says, "Marilyn, I came down yesterday and he was in the kitchen. Her son was in the kitchen talking to his sister. And then there's this pause, and I'm like, okay." And then she said, "No, you don't get it. They never talk. And when they do, they kind of grunt at each other like ships in the night." She said, "I was listening, and here's him to his sister." Well, the first thing you do is you get yourself physically and mentally prepared. And he's talking her through how to do the tangerine technique and all the rest of it. And then what you do is you preview the book. So you look at the front cover, the back cover, and he's explaining this. And he said, "And you photo reading, you're turning the pages at the rate of 1 second per page." And she just reeled off the whole photo reading, whole mind system. She wasn't in the room. She says, "I've never heard him talk like that, number one. And I've never heard him talk like that to his sister." She was just like blown away. Fantastic. I don't think too much more about it. A couple of months later, I'm in Marks and Spencer's in the food hall in Watford, doing a bit of shopping, and I run into her. And she says, "Marilyn, I've been meaning to call you. I wanted to tell you." She says, "So let me give you an update." She said, he he's got a Saturday. He got a B in his history exam. Now, history was the thing that was messing with his head. When you've got dyslexia and dyspraxia, and you're trying to make sense of names, dates, places, facts, figures, it's all over the place. So he got a B in his history exam. He got a job in WH Smith, the one that's just changed its name here in Watford. He spiked his hair, and he's got a girlfriend. Now, I can't lay claim to the spiking of hair, the getting a girlfriend, but what I can say is when you have that inner confidence, and you're not stupid, there's nothing wrong with you. You just know the system that you were in did not suit your learning style. And when you learn what that style is, everything else changes, and you get those strategies and you can apply them. It is a freaking game changer. And last week I was on Facebook. He got married a few years ago, and his mum posted the picture with him because she was saying, "I'm a grandparent." He's just had a baby. Oh my God. So whenever I see him, married, own family, did very well, it's just amazing because that could have gone in a completely different direction. So that's a little bit about the power of photo reading. So let us bring ourselves back to this cognitive impairment. Actually, that's the one. I'm going to put that one up, and then I'm going to take down the ones I don't want to use yet. So I'm going to remove that one. We've talked about that one. Take that one down for now and leave that one there. So let us get back to ChatGPT. It has a call to action piece to make sure that you don't fall into the cognitive decline that it's talking about with the over reliance on AI. So the call to action, it says, don't surrender your cognitive strength to automation. Instead, in bold letters, arm yourself with photo reading. a technique that enhances your mental agility and depth of understanding. Sign up for a workshop, start transforming how you read, and take control of your learning journey today. Curious to learn more? Let me know. Happy to chat about how photo reading empowers your mind in an age of AI shortcuts. And it then says, in summary, ChatGPT is a powerful assistant, but lacks depth, introspection, and the mental rigor that comes from truly internalizing what you read. Photo reading, on the other hand, cultivates genuine understanding, cognitive resilience, and lifelong learning skills that AI can't replicate. Let's keep the human mind at the center of learning. Oh, actually, it's written a photo reading anti-guarantee. Didn't see that before. It was just off the page. So it says, photo reading anti-guarantee. All sales are final because this is such a powerful system that once you have seen and experienced it, it can't be unseen. If you're not serious, don't buy it. I love that. That is just so funny. And it's true. It's true. So yeah, so that's what ChatGPT had to say about over reliance. I absolutely agree. I think that was a really brilliant summary. Couldn't have said it well. Maybe I could, but couldn't have said it better myself in a nice, succinct format, because that is exactly what I was experiencing with it. That lack of depth, that it felt, because your brain, it almost felt like it, and particularly for people who aren't using photo reading, accelerated learning, those types of techniques where you're going to help it just go in deeper straight out of the gate. It kind of felt like that when people are using ChatGPT, I'm suspecting that it really is surface level. It's not sinking in. You're not having that left and right brain integration, that corpus callosum, that kind of in that middle bit, having those, it firing back and forth. And I've been saying since I was a photo reading instructor, as I said, I did my photo reading training in March 2002 with Dr. Paul Shealy. And since that time, even when all the technology started coming out where you could create mind maps using software, I have always insisted in the class, I even supply the colored pens. I don't expect people to come with it. I'm bringing the colored pens, and I give them an A4 sketch pad as well, or if we're doing it online, that's what I tell them beforehand to get. And I always insist they do their mind maps by hand. Number one, because if you are sitting an exam, you're not going to be pulling out a tablet or a phone. You're going to need to do those mind maps. And I teach people to do those mind maps in 30 to 60 seconds so that they can mind map the entire subject before they even start writing. And this is how the photo readers are going from getting a U unclassified to B's and C's just a couple of weeks later. So, and the reason I've always said do your mind map by hand is there is something that happens with that hand, eye, mind, brain coordination to put those things down on paper. And then when I created the Limitless Neuro Success program with Dr. Koss, I started doing some more research into it. Dr. Koss, he's a GP and studying to be a neurosurgeon. He attended my photo reading workshop, was absolutely blown away. And he was the one who said to me, everything you're teaching, because he said to me, have you seen the movie Limitless? And I said, no, I haven't heard of it. Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro. He said, you need to watch the film. I said, why? He said, because everything you are teaching us in this room is in the movie Limitless. The only difference is we don't need to take a dangerous silver pill. This was on the Friday, the first evening. He said, the only thing you're not teaching is time shifting. So, okay, cool. I look up the movie. It's now one of my favorite movies for obvious reasons. So we get to Sunday afternoon. Dr. Koss comes back over and he says, Marilyn, I take that back. And I said, what? He said, you are time shifting. Because he said, I cannot believe how much we have learnt and how far everyone has come in 2.5 days. He was blown away. And then from there, he said, I really want to talk to you more about this. So every single Sunday for a year, 12 months, we spoke every Sunday. We always said for an hour. Sometimes it was an hour, two, three, four. Sometimes we met up in London and had a meal. The only time we didn't speak is if I was running a photo reading workshop, because they run Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or if he was taking a science neurosurgery exam. But aside from that, we spoke every Sunday. And eventually that culminated in us running an event together, the Limitless Neuro Success. That's how all of that came about. So I hired a swanky cinema in London, the One Aldwych. Some of you might know it because they got a private cinema. So I hired the private cinema and I showed the movie Limitless. Now, let me just put that disclaimer there. You cannot just hire a cinema and show a commercial movie, particularly if you're charging people for that. They'll sue the heck out of you. So I wrote to the film company, the distribution company. I explained what I was doing, what we were putting together, and I got a license to show the movie. So please don't say that Marilyn said you can just show a movie. No, I did not. You need to apply for a license, buy the license, etc. So we showed the movie Limitless, and then Dr. Koss talked about it from the neuroscience point of view. I talked about it from the photo reading and personal development mindset point of view. And then we were talking about how those two things cross-reference. So that was very cool. But it is that sort of thing where it's just amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So the stories are incredible. The way that it works is fantastic. And that whole thing. So when I was doing the research for that, that was like, that is why I've always been saying to people, because I just had that sense you don't get the same depth of integration when you're creating the IT software, mechanical mind maps. And the same has been true for me of passive reading. So the question that was rolling in my mind about, and the reason I was asking this question of ChatGPT is because I've seen people say, well, I don't need to do that anymore. And I don't need to do that. And I can just research this in 5 minutes and I can research this in 2 minutes. Sorry, there's something flying about. I've got my window open. I can do this in 2 minutes. I can do this in 3 minutes. I can do this in 5 minutes, which you can. But I was like, yeah, but what about the depth of what you're doing? What about the quality of what you're doing? What about the integration, the assimilation of what you're doing? And look, if you're just having to knock something out like a quick social media post, you never have to think about it again. That's cool. But if you're teaching something, if you're developing something and it's coming in at that surface level, I was then thinking, okay, well, where's the depth in that now? Have you got that as well to be able to deliver on the wonderful words that ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is you're using, the Alex Hormo, I'm sure actually the Alex Hormozy thing is probably going to be very different because it is trained on his, material. I would like to get my hands on that software and have a good old nosy. But generally speaking, the depth of that isn't there because we're not the ones who trained it. It's more regurgitating and sometimes hallucinating and all of that sort of stuff. So that was my summary with Chat GPT. It was really fascinating. I definitely agree with it. And so if you're wondering about photo reading, if you're curious, let me show you this one actually, because people often go, well, what about the detail from photo reading? I'm going to show you this one because it was very, very cool. Well, there's so many that are very cool. I'll start with this one. So this one, I got just randomly got something in my Facebook Messenger box from someone I didn't initially. I was like, oh, who's this? And then they said, oh, I did your photo reading workshop. I was like, oh, what are you doing? They said, I've changed jobs. I said, oh, yeah. And they said, I'm now a lawyer. And I was like, oh, my God, congratulations. This is what they said, which they've said I can share. They said, I changed paths, practicing law thanks to photo reading. It gave me the confidence to read a lot of material in a short time and retain it. Those law exams are no joke. No, they are not. That's serious business, as we'd say back in the day, serious things. What an amazing return on investment, ROI, from a 2.5 day workshop. And it reminded me of something, I've got goosebumps, I think about it, reminded me of something that happened very early on. So this probably would have been about, 2005, 2006, something like that. I got a phone call from someone, a policeman, Bobby on the beat, as we call them here, beat cop, you might call them in the United States, someone who walks the precinct, etc., street cop. He wanted to be a sergeant, but he'd failed his sergeant exams two years in a row. And his boss had said to him in no uncertain terms, they said, maybe you are not sergeant material. He was gutted because that's all he ever wanted to do and be. And so he'd made up his mind that if he failed, and number one, it wasn't his decision now. His boss said, if you fail again, maybe just accept that you stand aside for the younger guys who are coming through. So he knew that was it. If he failed this time round, there'll be no more backing for him to do it. He would have to remain a Bobby. uh, you know, uh, community policeman, however you want to put it. But we used to call them Bobby on the beat here. And I'm sure somebody can tell me the historical reason for that. Probably comes back to the Peel days or whatever. So he's distressed. He said, I saw this thing of photo reading. Will it help me? I was like, yeah, sure. I think it absolutely will. I'm pretty sure it will if you apply it and follow the steps and put into action exactly what I'm telling you to do. He said, great, I can't do the workshop, I don't have time. And I didn't have one scheduled anyway. I said, well, I do one-to-one. And in those days, I was doing them in person, but I've been teaching and training and coaching online now since 2005. So actually, it was probably before 2005 because I would have offered that as an option. So I said, okay, yeah, we'll meet up. Let's book a time. He said, how long will I need? I said, ideally, if you've never done photo reading before and you're going from zero, I would say a good 3 to 5 hours. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. And he went, I haven't got that much time. I said, how long have you got? And he said, I've got about an hour and a half. I said, well, when's your exam? 3 weeks time. And I haven't got time for the next 2 weeks. So we were going to be working with him a week or so before his exam. He's only got an hour and a half. So I'm like, holy smoke, this really, my work's cut out for me here. So I'm like, we're going to strip this thing back to the absolute basic, the bare bones of it. And I'm going to put the majority of the time, once I've layered in the photo reading, I'm going to put the majority of the time on exam technique. And once because even talking to him, I'm like, he sounds intelligent enough, good conversation, quick mind, etc. And as I suspected, when he turned up, we did the session, and I was like, he knows his stuff. It's in there. It's just not getting out. So taught him the techniques. Then we spent a chunk of time talking about exam technique, brain activation, getting into the flow state, all of those things that you need when you're sitting exams, either at school, college, university, or kind of professional exams in your place of work. So we do all that in an hour and a half. Phew, off he goes. I get a call a week later. In those days, I had an answering service. So I go through the messages for the answering service, and they said, PC XYZ would like to speak to you. Said, could you please call back? Said you have the number. So they must have been thinking, oh, what's she done? So I phone him back, and he says, Marilyn, he said, I just want to say thank you. He said, I have no idea how I did, but he said, I did the exam today, this week. And it was great. He said, I now know, because he said he wasn't academic at school, didn't do all the higher education stuff. So he didn't really think of himself as academic. And of course, when you're continually failing the exam, that reinforces that belief. He said, I now know that I can sit exams. And he used the technique that I suggested to him, which means you've nailed it out the park in the first 5 freaking minutes. And so he said, I just wanted to say thank you. I now know that I can do exams without stressing myself out, getting into a real muddle, all the rest of it. He said, it was just fine. I just sat the exam, just did it, whatever. A couple of months later, I get another thing from the answering service saying, PC so-and-so has called. Can you call him back? So I ring back, and he said, I've got my results. I was like, okay, cool. What happened? And he says, Marilyn, now remember, this is a man who has failed for 2 years and has been told by his boss, no more, stand aside for the young guys, you're not sergeant material. He said, Marilyn, oh my God, serious goosebumps. He says, Marilyn, not only did I pass, I was in the top 25 percentile for the entire country. That's the whole of the UK. The entire country. This is a man who was going to give up on his dream. And he said, if he failed again, he was going to leave the police force and go into close protection, which also could mean standing in front of a nightclub with what I call the Madonna mic on and checking people's ID. He was going to give up his lifelong dream of being a policeman and a sergeant and go and stand outside of a nightclub if necessary, because that's how much he wanted to leave what he was doing and move into something else. Top 25 percentile in the entire country. That is freaking awesome. So when I talk about ROI from photo reading, it's very challenging to put into words, but that should give you a bit of a flavor and an idea. And you might be going, Marilyn, I'm not going to be doing law, etc., etc. So let me put these two up here, and then I will take down that first one. So we've talked about that one. And actually, I'll make that one a bit bigger. So this is from the wonderful Naomi Tamayama. Some of you might know her. Actually, I've just had a thought. Let me just check something, because the last time I multi-streamed, it had no sound. I just thought of it. I'm sure it's fine. Thought. Let me just. Yes, it's fine. So this is from Naomi Tamayama, and she came to my photo reading workshop, and I just happened to see this on Facebook. And I said, oh my God, can I share that? Are you okay for me to name you, etc.? She's like, yeah, sure. She said, I have spent, and let me put this into context, she's a single mum, entrepreneur, has several businesses, also does a crystal business, etc. Some of you know she does festivals. Actually, she's looking for some good festivals to do, if you know of any. She has a massive crystal stall that she does. So she said, I've spent less than an hour reading 8 books on a topic, and I've just compiled a piece of work from this. Hashtag game changer, hashtag real life skills. That's Naomi Tamayama, entrepreneur, from www.naomitamayama.com. And if you want the crystals, it's Mad Dog Designs. So to put that into Facebook, it will take you to her Mad Dog Designs page. And she attended the photo reading workshop. This is what she was doing. She's a single mum, entrepreneur, several businesses. 8 books. That's 8 books in 1 hour. That is just freakishly insane. So that is amazing. So, it suits everyone. And then in terms of coming back to detail, rigor, all of those sorts of things, I've even taught a team of rocket scientists at Cranfield University on the Shrivenham MOD, Ministry of Defence base. And when there's a bit on the feedback form where I say, choose the words you'd use to describe this workshop. Now, when I first turned up, this would have been in the early 2000s. It's when I was a management consultant. I started doing that in 2003, specializing in central and local government. I'm a corporate trainer, change manager, remote working specialist. Yes, remote working in 2003. And so this was one of the clients, and I designed a bespoke photo reading workshop for them. And when I turned up looking all fresh faced, they're all sitting there suited and booted. We're on a military base, and there's this little girl, what must have looked like to them, telling them about learning and reading. And some of them are like, okay, whatever, what are we doing here? So I go around the room, and I opened it as I normally do, and I say, what's your role, and what do you want to get from this workshop? Da 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 da. The first person said, I'm a rocket scientist. And I sort of look around, and I'm like, are they messing with me? Are they just sort of making this up? And I was like, okay. So he explains his job, sounds very, knows what he's all about. And there's about 12 people there. The next person, your role? I'm also a rocket scientist. Of the people there, about 70% of them were rocket scientists. I was like, oh my God. And they've come here for me. Look, when you've got a PhD and qualifications coming out of your wazoo, and you are a rocket scientist for the Ministry of Defence, you know how to learn. You know how to disseminate data. So I would not blame them sitting there thinking, what the heck is this little teenager, which is probably how I look to them, going to teach us about reading, learning, memory, recall, research, dissemination of information. Anyway, this is what they said with regards to the course, the summary. Stimulating, valuable, highly recommended, professional, excellent, enlightening, fun, relaxing, motivating, time well spent, should be given to all first year PhD students. I was not expecting to see those words from the rocket scientist. So it doesn't matter your starting point. As I said, I've got a lot. Oh, let me see if I've got it. Did I put it in the stack? Let me see if I put it in the stack, because it's a really lovely one. And I would say, look, what a gift to give to someone just starting out. Let's see. Sorry, I have to click through because the scroll thing doesn't work at the moment. Right. So this is someone who was 11. So they came as a family, two parents, three kids. She said, Marilyn, you helped me so much of being a better person and feeling better about myself. And the father sent me an email from the airport, and he just said, I wanted to just express the thanks, gratitude, appreciation. The kids got so much out of it. We got so much out of it, both all individually and as a family. And they sent me an email a couple of months later because they had the daughter who was taking her exams. She was, I think, 15, 16. And they said in exam time, this is so not the 11-year-old, the one who was older. They said in exam time, the whole family suffers because the daughter is completely stressed out and panicking, and it just disrupts the whole dynamic. They said, Marilyn, it was just completely calm. It was just amazing. And their son came along, who, I didn't say this, they said it. He had ADHD and he's a gamer. And so I said, okay, leave that with me. And what we did is I showed him, number one, how the gaming can actually help with his photo reading and brain activation, and also creating the rationale for photo reading, which is when you implement this skill, you will create more time and more ease and more space, which actually then gives you the space and the time to game and do the work that your parents are requiring to do. And once we kind of got that sorted out, but he said it. He said in his feedback, I haven't got it written down here, but he said it was. He said it's way more than just photo reading. Reading is like a mental, spiritual massage. Just incredible. The youngest attendee I've had, well, it used to be Bira. He was 9, but then we had Eve, who was 7, and she had her birthday on the photo reading workshop. Incredible. And with regards to Eve, so she goes back to school with these wonderful skills, and she gets into trouble because the teacher then says to her, Mum, I don't think she's reading properly, da 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 da, because she'd been using the photo reading. And when you're photo reading, hold on, let me grab it. So you got the photo reading book, and this is what it looks like when you're photo reading. I'll just hold it up. This is how, not, I wouldn't be holding it up in front of my face, but I'm doing it so you can see it on the camera. This is what it looks like. So Eve is doing all of this and mind mapping, all the rest of it. So the parent, the school speaks to the parent, her parent and mum, and says, I don't know what Eve is doing, but she's not learning properly. She's da 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 da. So her mum says, okay. Eve gets home, says, Eve, what were you studying today? Eve says the subject. She says, okay, come and sit down. Tell me all about it. Eve is just like boom, 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 just reeling it off, just like bang, 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 bang. The teacher, however, didn't go that into that depth. She's just going on what she thinks she's seeing. So we do a group sort of Zoom thing. Said, Marilyn, what do you think? And I says, look, here's what I would do. And her mum agreed. So we talked about it beforehand, and we said, Eve, when you're in school, just do what they're telling you to do. And then when you're in your own space, do the photo reading. She's like, great, okay. Because, there's no point getting getting their knickers in a twist. Her mum then says, when I speak to her a few weeks later, her mum said, Eve has been running underground photo reading classes. So she's in the corner of the playground, got a little group of her friends. She's saying, okay, so the first thing you do, she's taking them through the photo reading. Just amazing, just absolutely amazing. But yeah, what an absolute gift to give to children. It's a skill that you can take through your entire life, and I do not say that lightly. There's something that I always talk about. I think I've got it here somewhere. There's something I always talk about called the ripple effect. The ripple effect has been my logo since I first got started. You might be able to see it on the shelf behind me in terms of the business card. And here's one I created earlier. Bit of a blurry because it's just a big blow up of the card behind me. But and that's when I started off doing the 1-day breakthrough sessions before I became a photo reading instructor. So I started doing that in October, end of the year 2000. The one-day breakthrough session was a catalyst. So I'd work with someone for just one day, going through negative emotions, limiting beliefs, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, not good enough, not clever enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough, all of that stuff that gets kind of weighs us down. So we're doing all of that, clearing that, using the timeline therapy, the hypnotherapy, the HUNA, the NLP, creating new strategies, putting a goal in their future timeline. Bang, we're done in 7 or 8 hours. Have a nice life. And that served as a catalyst that would continue to ripple through people's entire life. That is exactly what happened. And one day I'm sitting at my desk, not quite the same desk. This is a new one I've had recently, but I'm pretty much sitting in the same space. And I get a message from someone, an email, and they said, Marilyn, are you still coaching? Yes, I am. They said, okay, I've got someone who's looking for an executive coach. I would really like to recommend you if you're okay. I said, yeah, sure, put them in touch. Da 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 da. Then they said, I've been meaning to get in touch with you. I hear that a lot. Wow. Oh my God. You're not going to believe this. I hear these phrases a lot. They said, I've been meaning to get in touch with you. I just wanted to say thank you for the breakthrough session. That one day we did is still rippling throughout my entire life. And I read that, I think we did that about 10 years ago. So I searched for their name in my email in the database because I'd write little notes. Not for everyone, but on occasion, I would just remind myself that they put this, we're doing this, we're doing that. So I find them in my database. Sure enough, we did a 1 day breakthrough session 10 years prior. So 10 years ago. And the effect of that is still rippling through their entire life. And it was in that moment that I realized that the goal, the intention I'd set for myself in the year 2000 was true and real, and that is exactly what was happening for people. It's exactly what was on my brochure. You can maybe see the brochure there on the shelf in the corner, the purple with the water drop. I'm like, oh my God. And I had the same thing happen. It would have been December 2023. So I was a local councillor, elected official, you call them in the UK. So I'm at a function with the mayor of Watford. We're at the town hall, and I'd been there. I'd invited someone along. They probably would have gone anyway because it was with the Chamber of Commerce and all of that sort of stuff. And I was walking past, and they said, "Oh, that was Marilyn." And I said, "Oh, yeah." Should I was just talking about you, because they'd said to her, "Do you remember this stuff? How do you know this stuff? You always have these facts and these things and da 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 da." She had come to, her name's Julia. Julia had come, rather than saying her, Julia had come to my very first photo reading workshop. It was my instructor class, where Lynette Ayres, who I trained with in the United States alongside Dr. Paul Shealy, flew over to the UK. She lives in Minneapolis. That's where Learning Strategies are based. So she flew to the UK, to sunny Watford, and she sat at the back of my very first photo reading workshop that was open to the public. People booked and paid to be there. So she's at the Lynette Ayres is at the back of the room. She's got basically sitting there. She's got a clipboard, a pen, the little half moony glasses, and she sits there for the 2.5 days just going, and you don't know what she's thinking, you don't know what she's writing while all of this is going on. So you're teaching this class for 21 hours. Lynette is sitting at the back, not saying anything. The only thing she'd said to me beforehand is when I showed her my mind maps, because I did them in a very unconventional way, and I share that with you on the photo reading workshop. And she said, good luck with using those mind maps. Very interested to see how you handle those. I was like, cool. So the only thing she said to me before we sat down on the Monday, because we'd run it over the weekend and did the assessment, she said, good use of mind maps. I was like, phew, because that's one of the things she's like, let's see how this goes. So anyway, Julia's on this very first workshop over 20 years ago. So we're in the town hall in Watford, and she stops me and she says, I was just saying to them, because her partner, she said, my partner's always saying that to me. This stuff, how do you know this stuff? How do you know this stuff? And she said, I said to Pete, it's the photo reading. It does something to your brain. And I'm like, oh my God, Julia did my class over 20 years ago. We have not, we see each other, because we sit on the same board somewhere. But we've never talked about the photo reading. She hasn't ever redone the class. She just did it that one time, and it was my first ever photo reading class. I'm probably way better at teaching it now than I was back then, but back then I was pretty good. I was very good. Um, she was at my first class over 20 years ago, and she still credits photo reading for all of that wonderful stuff and improving her mind and her brain. Just incredible. It's amazing. You just couldn't make this stuff up. So that is why I am very convinced. Oh, actually, I've got it here. Let me show you this one. Going to put them both in, because when I put them both in, it then moves it up to the top of the deck, and then it's easier for me to toggle. So I'm going to move that one for now, and I will move that one for now, and then increase the size of that one. This is because every year as an instructor, you send a report to learning strategies. And I have to be honest with you, because my feedback forms would be insane, amazing, incredible, fantastic, best thing I've ever done. Marilyn is amazing. This has changed my life. Boom, 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 boom. And because I was like, oh my God, I was like, this actually sounds like writing these myself. So I would send just send, some that are kind of in the middle, amazing, excellent, very well executed, hit all my goals, achieved everything I wanted to achieve. But there were really very few of those. Everything was like, whoa, wow. And even with me sending not all of the particularly glowing, glowing, glowing 1,000,000% ones, this is what Lynette sent back to me as an email one year. She says, wow, Marilyn, I think you should laminate your report, as in the photo reading report feedback, and hang it on your wall. What incredible comments, exclamation mark. They don't surprise me one bit. Or goosebumps. You are and always have been a totally present instructor. You create such a fantastic environment and have such high energy. How can your participants not, in question marks, learn? Smiley face, Lynette Ayres, photo reading master trainer. So Lynette, while she was working with learning strategies for several decades, aside from, I think, the first couple of dozen people, Lynette trained every single photo reading instructor in the world. If you were in Japan, Lynette is flying to Japan. If you're in Australia, Lynette is flying to Australia. If you're in France, Lynette is flying to France. She's based in the United States, but she's going to come to your state, whichever one of those it is. And if you're running it in Watford, she's flying to Watford. I was just blown away when I saw that. Just amazing and incredible. So yeah, that is why I agree with ChatGPT that there is something deep and visceral and neurologically powerful about photo reading that I have witnessed over the last 23 plus years. Just incredible. And I remember I was teaching at a school. I know I haven't got that testimony in the stack, but it's there. Actually, I'll see if I can find it maybe. But I'll tell you in summary. I was running photo reading mini sessions during their enrichment time. It was like it was a 6-week program. So I'd do an hour and a half. And one of the students there, he was an actor. His name is Daniel. He was in Harry Potter. It's not Daniel Radcliffe. It was one of the, extras, etc. But they'd done their mock exams and he failed. He got a U and unclassified. About 3 weeks later, he retook it and got a B or a C it was. And he says to the deputy head, Barry Birch, the person who commissioned me and brought me into the school to teach the photo reading, Barry said, what happened? He said, I just did what Miss Marilyn said. Got an unclassified. And he just applied. And at that point, we would have done 3 sessions. So basically had 3 hours worth of photo reading training. And there's 26 kids in the room. So it wasn't just one-to-one. And he kind of nearly got an A. It was just like, wow, absolutely incredible. Actually, let me see if I can do it quickly. I'll see if I can find it, because it is a stunning review from Barry Birch, who was a deputy head at Queen's Park School in London. Now, what would I have called it? Sorry about the... Oh, there we go. Yeah, that should work. Oh, no, it's a JPEG. I don't think a JPEG format is going to work. I don't know if it will. Would I have put that? It might surprise me. Let me just see if it. Oh, well, I stand corrected. It does work. It does work. So I'm going to go back here. Going to take that one off and we can enlarge in that one. So it says this is Queen's Park Community School in London, NW6. To whom it may concern, because he did an open reference for me, Queen's Park Community Schools, a Brent's full service extended school, has worked closely with Marilyn Devonish of Transformations for over 3 years. We have partnered with Marilyn in offering creative and innovative teaching in order to raise the quality of teaching and learning. The 3 courses Marilyn has delivered have been 2 cohorts of 25 7-year-olds, year 7 and 8 gifted and talented students, and a smaller group of 6th formers as an enhancement to their PHSCE course. PhotoReading uses NLP techniques which are stimulating and motivating to students. She combines relaxation methods and study skills approach to accelerate learning in an enjoyable manner. Marilyn is an excellent teacher who is able to motivate and stimulate her students. Her classes were very popular, and the fact they were continually well attended speaks volumes for their efficacy. As someone who spent a lot of time in the lessons, because Barry used to sit in just to make sure it was all okay, it was impressive to see a real joy of learning and discovery, so beautifully combined with a sense of purpose and lots of fun. We continue to work with Matt. Actually, let me just change the format. Can I put it side by side? Let me just see if I can do that. We continue to work with Marilyn and tell others of the pioneering work she is doing. I'm grateful for our extended school service for funding stream to allow us to fly a kite with this course and would recommend it to others. Indeed, I recently hosted a learning visit by 16 other schools to Queen's Park School as part of our specialist schools work and had no hesitation in asking Marilyn to do a workshop for them. The evaluation gave her 80% and a rating of excellent. So that is what can be achieved. And I did start with the gifted and talented group, and then I worked with students who were struggling with their learning in the next cohort, and it was absolutely incredible. And trust me, trying to keep 26 26 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds occupied and under control. It's no mean feat, I'm telling you, particularly when you're not a school teacher. I work with adults. So, of course, I teach accelerated learning. I teach learning styles. So I brought all of that to the fore, and that was the result. It was absolutely amazing. So I worked with them for a few years. It was just fantastic. So that is why I think and believe that photo reading is absolutely incredible. It's just beyond, really. I always say you couldn't make this stuff up in terms of the way that it works, the wonderful testimonials that you get. It's just out of this world. And this was the one that I'm looking at is it sort of in the middle. It was someone an author flew in, woman of a certain age, I'm going to say she's probably in her 50s or 60s, but she said, Marilyn, you've opened up so many possibilities for me and inspired me to expand my life and knowledge. I don't feel as old as I did when I came. Thank you. Because people go away feeling neurologically refreshed. And I also had someone who's a marketing specialist. I was like, thank God, somebody who does marketing, they can tell me how to put the power of photo reading into words. Because I know when I speak to people, they're just like, they almost can't quite believe that what I'm saying, even when they've read the testimonials, they've watched the testimonial videos where people are saying it for themselves, like in their own voices. Their brain's still almost kind of like, could that really be true? Could that really work? Like, would it work for me? And so I had a marketing specialist come along. I was really excited. I was like, brilliant. Can you put photo reading into words for me? Because I can then use this for the marketing. Here's what they said. I see your issue with marketing, how to get people to believe all the changes with something so seemingly simple as photo reading, a good dilemma. I'm like, is that what you got? It's like, yeah, can't put it into words. Oh, and this was a testimonial from the teenage son that came along with the family. He said, this is more than just learning photo reading. It is a spiritual mental massage. Amazing. No other words. And he was very reluctant when he came, because you imagine you're like 15, 16 years old, your parents have dragged you off, they got on a plane because they live outside of the UK. So they all flew in specifically for the photo reading workshop. And can you imagine, you're a teenager, you want to just be gaming, and somebody's dragging you along to a course about learning and reading. And that was his feedback. It was just amazing. And this was someone else said, because there's a bit on the form that says, what would you change? And they said, I don't think you need to change anything, Marilyn. It was fantastic for me. It was wonderful and incredibly helpful. And again, that was one of the 11-year-old attendees. And I always just say, what a gift. A gift at any age, because people can also be at the other end of the scale, like the author, who start thinking they're too old, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that sort of thing. But also when people are just starting out in their academic life, their journey, their working life, even if they're not going to go to higher education, it is a skill that keeps on giving, that keeps on delivering, and it is an absolute powerhouse. I've had people age 7 to in their 90s attend the workshop, and it is always mind blowing. So yeah, thanks ChatGPT for the conversation, for the insight, for the overview of this wonderful thing. But I love the see if I can probably just copy and paste the transcript of what ChatGPT said somewhere around this at some point, or I'll probably blog about it. So when I've done that, I'll add the link so you can just read it in your own words. And I did a different style of walkthrough video previously, where I just was in ChatGPT. So it was just a picture of me with, you could just hear my voice, but I thought we'll do one that brings it to life in a different way as well. So I can put that one in so you can just see the ChatGPT for yourself. Alrighty, so if you do want to attend the photo reading workshop, it's www.transformationstm.com/photo reading. So that's TRANCE, as in hypnotic trance. So TRANCE, F for Freddie, that's FORMATIONS TM. So transformationstm.com/photo reading. Or if you land on transformationstm.com, the main website, look along the top, you'll see the tabs, and just click on that and it'll take you to the photo reading site, where you can either take the class online on demand. So it's the full online certification class, which means you can take it from anywhere in the world, wherever you happen to be, from the comfort of your own home or your own office. You can kind of take it at your own pace, or you can learn in person. Now, with the in person, if you're watching this in real time, I just sent the dates out 2 days ago. Well, not the dates, the request. So for people who had expressed an interest in attending, I've sent them out, said, these are the kind of the possibilities. Let me know which of these dates you can do in the next couple of months. And then I'll choose a date that everyone can do, so no one gets left out, particularly those who are going to book early to secure a better price. And what I will probably do with that one, the early booking for that will be a copy. I don't often do this, but an early booking will be a copy of the full 3-day certification online course, which is £850. And the reason I think that's very cool is when you do the workshop in person, it's amazing. Fantastic. And then when the workshop's over, the workshop's over. Off you go. Have a nice life. Implement your photo reading and let it continue to deliver for you for the next 20 plus years, as Julia has done, and many others. And when you've got the video webinar version, the full 21 hours, it means, because one of the things you get when you attend the photo reading workshop is you get a lifetime refresher certificate, which means you can retake the class free of charge anywhere in the world forever. And Dr. Paul Sheely designed it that way because you want to layer your skills. You can deepen those skills. You can get other nuances and up level. Or it might be that something happens in your life. You're like, oh my God, I've now got to take exams. I did the photo reading class 10 years ago. I want to refresh my skills. So that's always available to people. And you just pay for the cost of being in the room. That's going to vary from country to country, and depending on the venues people are using. If you're using a hotel and you're hiring something, that will be different to somebody running it around their kitchen table. What potentially it will be. And so when you have the online version, once you've taken the in-person class, it means that you can go back in and you can dip in, you can remind yourself, you can retake sections of the course. So I thought that might be a nice thing to do for the final workshop. If you're watching this in real time, that's going to apply for people booking in the next couple of weeks. If you're watching this outside of real time, then you can just ignore what I've just said to you in that last 2 minutes. But yeah, if you're watching this in real time and you want to join us for the in-person workshop and you're booking in the next couple of weeks, then you'll get as a bonus the full 3-day online video webinar certification class as well, which will then serve as a lovely refresher and reminder. And I've already earlier in the video shown you some of the feedback from that. So yes, that is it. That is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you know someone who could benefit from joining the photo reading class, then please feel free to send. So that's what I'm talking about there. The feedback from people who did it online, and this is the version you'll get is this very class here that they took. That was it, and that's just one of them. There's loads more, but that sort of sums it up. So you'll get that class that this group took, which was out of this world, and that's the URL there as well, transformationstm.com. And if you know someone who could benefit from learning this incredible skill, and for me, having had that conversation with ChatGPT and then kind of looking at what it said and its recommendation, I absolutely agree. It is a powerhouse combination. When you put the power of ChatGPT together with photo reading, you see the old yin and the yang and the incredible synergy, it's next level, because you can then use the photo reading skills and strategies to avoid the cognitive decline that they're talking about in these reports and these articles with regards to overuse of ChatGPT. So yeah, I look forward to working with you. Feel free to share this, pass it on to anyone who you think could benefit. Give it a like, a share, a thumbs up. We know how the algorithm goes. But yeah, thank you for watching. Marilyn Devnish, the Neuro Success Coach, Rapid Transformation Specialist, Futurist, and Certified Photo Reading Instructor since March 2002. Over and out. And yes, because it often comes up with the question, I do still include the bonus session, the HUNA, HUNA. The HUNA is included in the online workshop, but we do a bonus HUNA session at the end, or at the end of the first day, because one of the things, like, photo reading is really easy. There's 5 steps. Step 1, once you've nailed it, you can do that in like 10 seconds. Step 2 is 90 seconds, a minute and a half. Step 3, the photo reading step, is 5 minutes to get through a book. Step 4, the post view. I give people, my clients, my attendees, about a minute and a half. So again, 90 seconds. And step 5, the activation. You can activate in as little as 2 to 5 minutes, and you'll do longer sittings. I'd say 20, 25 minutes, no more than 40 to 45 minutes per sitting. If you're studying, doing professional exams, or a speaker, trainer, etc., you might be delivering a training, keynote presentation, doing live TV, live radio, speaking on a podcast, whatever it is. It just takes a few minutes. And I realized that people are still struggling with it. I was like, it's their mindset and beliefs. So I then started doing an access consciousness belief change session as part of the workshop. I did it on the Friday. People came back on the Saturday completely transformed, just like out of this world, just beyond amazing. So I still include the HUNA and Access on those in-person workshops, and you'll also be able to experience that as part of that when you do the online as well. So that is all in there. So yeah, I look forward to working with you. And if you have done photo reading years ago, you want to come back and refresh, ping me a message and I'll let you know how much that will be. And you just need to, don't send me the real certificate in the post, just send me a copy of your previous certificate. You don't have to have done the training with me. You could have done the photo reading with another instructor anywhere in the world. But then you get a special price as a refresher price. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And also massive thank you to everyone who has walked through those photo reading doors since 2002, because without you, I wouldn't be able to run the workshop. So really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you and the future cohorts. Marilyn Devonish, over and out.